It's nothing short of a masterpiece.
That is one big pile of shit.
Hello and welcome to Bad Movie Book Club, your monthly installment of all the shit you could ever want.
That's fantastic. That is the way everything should start. All the shit you could ever want.
It's oddly enough, it's only the motto for Walmart, but now it can. But now it's the motto for Bad Movie Book Club. I'm your host Drew, and with me is the one and only Liam.
I'm co-host Liam.
And
hello, internet people.
So why don't we give the rundown of what we're planning to do in this shindig?
Well, the idea came to me a while ago of it'd be fun to do a podcast. What would I like to talk about? I like terrible movies. Drew, you like terrible movies.
Oh, I do indeed.
You want to sit around and talk about terrible movies for an hour? Like once a month?
Hell, I'd like to talk about terrible movies for more than just once a month, but it seems to be all that the police will allow me at the moment. Something about restraining orders. I don't know.
Make poor life choices, son.
So anyway.
Let's talk about what movie we're going to be talking about today. It's episode number 1. We're talking about a personal favorite of mine, Gymkata.
Also known as, look at how many times I can spin around before I finally decide to kick the bad guy.
Well, that's not so much the problem. The problem is, how many times can I spin around and then a bad guy will run into me spinning around?
That's also true. Also, fun fact, why don't you just use archery? You kill everybody else with arrows, why can't you kill the bad guy? Or the good guy?
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of archery in terrible movies like this, because they can't afford to do some sort of practical effect of shooting the arrow, so arrows just appear in people with that great thud sound effect that only movies from the 80s had.
That oh so satisfying thunk.
And then followed by a delayed reaction because they had to, the director has to say action again, and then the actor goes, "Oh, I've been hit with an arrow."
And usually it's like, oh, grab the wound so you can't see how we super glued it to my chest.
Although there's a great scene in Gymkata where one of the ninja guardsmen gets shot with an arrow, and as he's plummeting, grabs it too hard and just pushes it to the side.
Well, I think we're getting ahead of ourselves a little bit here.
I'm just excited to talk about Gymkata.
Oh, me too. And I understand that love is not ill-placed. There's actually a good story behind this. Is that correct?
What, a good story behind me loving a terrible movie? I mean...
weirder things have happened.
Tale as old as time, song as old as rhyme. Boy meets terrible movie, boy falls in love with terrible movie.
Okay, but I understand that you came to know about this movie.
Yeah. So I was introduced to this movie. I was hanging out with some people that I'd never met before, and we did this sort of the equivalent of dogs sniffing each other's butts of trying to figure out, are we going to get along? Are we going to mesh? And one of the guys whips out a copy of Gymkata. He's like, you want to watch Gymkata? What is Gymkata? It's the skill of gymnastics, the kill of karate. And I was like, yes, I do want to watch that. I was invited to his wedding 6 months later. We bonded.
So you essentially bonded with the guy on the street
strangers
who opens up his trench coat, and instead of drugs, there's terrible movies.
Hey man, what you need? I got it all. I got Gymkata. I got future cops.
You need gymnastics? You need karate? I got both.
Packed into one skillful, killful little device called Gymkata.
Oh, Liam, I love it when you talk dirty to me. All right, without further ado, let's jump in.
Warning! The spoiler gate is opening. This is not a drill. I repeat, this is not a drill. The show will be entering a spoiler zone here on out. If you do not wish to experience spoilers, please turn off the show now. I repeat, the spoiler gate is open. Warning, the spoiler gate is open. This is not a drill. I repeat, this is not a drill. The show will end.
So, I think fair to say at this point, I'm going to create some really cool sound effect that goes, spoiler warning!
Yeah. All right. So, as that nifty sound effect that I'm assured is going to be awesome is just announced, we're going to go into a little spoiler-heavy review / summary of the incredible movie of the month, Gymkata. Like, I've shown pretty much everybody I know this movie. It's so great. It's a great movie.
It definitely falls into that category of so unintentionally bad that it's actually quite good.
Yeah, and what I've learned is, so like I shared how I found out about this movie story, and I assumed it's just one of those like classic, bad movies that some people who are into the so good it's bad genre have just in stock. But apparently, if you were like alive in the 80s, people have heard of this movie.
Really?
Like, it wasn't just a shitty little B movie. I was talking about it with my dad, of all people, and I was like, yeah, I'm watching Gymkata. And he just kind of did that, the dad thing of like, oh yeah, Gymkata. And I call him out on it, like, Gymkata. Like, all right, if you've seen Gymkata, who's it star? It's like, Kurt Thomas. And I'm like, what?
What dark magic is this?
I know, I was blown away. My dad's seen, like, no movies, but he knew Gymkata and could tell you that former Olympian Kurt Thomas starred in this masterpiece.
Actually, I think the interesting thing, the one thing that I noticed about it that most people don't realize is that probably the most successful actor that has come out of that movie is Richard Norton, I think. Is that his name? Richard Norton. I'm going to say that with confidence.
I don't know. Who are we talking about?
Main bad guy number 1.
Yeah, the Sheriff of Nottingham?
Yeah, the Chuck Norris lookalike.
Yeah.
Fun fact, he was actually good friends with Chuck Norris. Chuck Norris was the one that gave him his into Hollywood. And then Jackie Chan made him famous, even though he died in Gymkata.
Well, he died a warrior's death. It's like, I didn't realize anyone famous was in that. I mean, aside from Kurt Thomas, who's famous in the gymnastics circles. Although, the first time I saw it, the big Russian guy Thor, I thought that was a very young Mickey Rourke.
Oh, okay.
It is not.
Also, just to clarify, that's also Thorg with a G.
It's Thorg?
Thorg.
Oh my god, I had so much more respect for him when he's Thor. If you guys haven't seen this movie, the secondary villain of the piece it was made in the 80s, so you have to have your Soviet super soldier. Like every 80s movie has him. Yet your Ivan Drago's, everything. This one has Thorg. And Thorg looks like a young, blonde Mickey Rourke who stole the Hans and Franz uniform from that SNL skit. We'll pump you up. And just Wonder Woman's bracers and just kills all of the competitors.
I don't know. I don't think you should insult Wonder Woman's bracers like that. That's going kind of low. Also, if I remember correctly, he had a top piece on top of his Hans and Franz uniform that looked like he just beat up Mork from Mork and then took his shirt and then ripped it off the sleeves.
I think he did in his formal attire at the banquet scene, but he doesn't have it when he's actually competing because it would slow him down.
No, he actually had it through the point to where he first starts officially fighting our hero for the first time. Speaking of which, who is our hero, Liam?
Our hero is Mr. John, is it Kaplan or Caput? Something with a C
that
and
guy.
a P. Who cares? He's Kurt Thomas. All right.
That's right. Kirk Thomas stars as Kirk Thomas does a bunch of flashy spins
with his fantastic Christmas sweaters and rockin' 80s mullet.
But he's not the only one.
Okay. Can we talk about how he spends most of that movie in like a Bill Cosby sweater?
Please do.
Like, what? Why? They're in the Hindu Kush, and I'm gonna get into that in a second. But that should be an arid, hot area. You would be uncomfortable as hell in some like Christmas sweater that you get as a joke for a family photo.
That's true. And I have to admit, I was hankering for pudding pretty bad throughout the whole film.
Jello pudding pops.
Oh, absolutely. Nothing like it. Nothing like it at all. But I also did some research, and it looked like most of the foreign scenes that they filmed were actually in Yugoslavia.
I know. All right. Okay. Let's get into this then. I also looked
officially,
this up because
officially starting with square one. So opening scenes, black screen. Looks like there's a white line cutting across the screen, like the cameraman had a broken lens and didn't know it.
and it focuses on that for a really long time, like so long that you think there's something wrong with your DVD. Like, did it freeze? The music's still going. Occasionally, new names pop up, but
And then a pair of hands reach seemingly out of the abyss.
No, they don't. It cuts to some guy.
Oh, that's right.
Running through the woods, being chased by the worst ninjas ever. They just stand out so badly. He runs into.
Oh,
Were
they
first
ninjas?
two. I think they're his guardsmen, but they're ninjas. Come on,
okay.
look at.
I didn't realize they were ninjas. I thought they were like clan members that didn't realize that, or they were like trying to prove that black was the new white or something.
No, they're ninjas.
Okay.
But my favorite ninjas, you see them all the time in this movie, are the ninjas desperately trying to disguise themselves as flagpoles that look really upset when somebody notices them. They just hold up their flag, and then when somebody looks at them, their shoulders just droop. Like, oh, you spotted me. I'm a terrible ninja. This guy is getting getting chased by these ninjas. And the music is very dramatic. And it's like, dun, 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 dun. Like, you're like, oh, this is suspense time. And then we cut back to that white bar, and those hands grab it, and we realize it's Kurt Thomas on the parallel bar doing his routine. The music does not change.
Of course not. Everything makes perfect sense now. Suspenseful, man running, high octane, Kurt Thomas doing gymnastics. I mean, the suspense is there. Is he going to make it? I mean, probably because he's Kurt fucking Thomas. But is he, though? It's in slow motion.
Well, he appears to be the only competitor, and he doesn't stick around to see if he medals because he just wanders off.
That's true.
But that's jumping ahead a little bit. So we cut back and forth between this guy running from ninjas and Kurt Thomas doing his acrobatics. So we get to to the man in the woods who we don't know who the hell he is. He's just some guy running from ninjas.
Because
and there is a rope. Oh, he is, but not yet. We have a rope going across this cliff, and the man begins to start just climbing across this rope. And then I think this is when we see the leader of the ninja band, this guy who looks like he's trying out for the Sheriff of Nottingham, looks like he could be doing Shakespeare in the Park. Just this big bushy beard, perfect casting. He reminds me of the villain in Robin Hood Men in Tights. Like, just spot on.
Oh, you're missing the crown gem, though. The crown gem, by far, has to be the single cross earring, like, dangling.
Oh, yeah. The little dangly one. Yes. Oh, my God.
Not at all out of place, like, on an Oriental bluff, where he's accompanied by, like, these wannabe ninjas on Asian horseback.
Yeah. And so our mysterious man gets about halfway across this rope, and the Sheriff of Nottingham shoots him with a bow. Again, love bow and arrows in these sorts of movies, especially when they result in watching a mannequin fall off a cliff onto a rock bed.
And I almost want to say that they sped up the footage for that, because it was just kind of like...
No, it's not.
Very
it's not sped up
ragdoll.
at all. You're crazy. it's perfect because it's absolute realism of just a dummy that does not weigh anywhere near what a human body should weigh, kind of floating and just hitting the ground in what's supposed to be a very dramatic scene, but just comes off as comical. Because it's so anticlimactic, the little thwack when he hits, and then it's it. And
I think I've seen more emotionally moving, like, splatter death scenes from Goat Simulator.
I killed a bug once and felt more emotion than this guy hitting those rock bands. And it made a bigger mess.
Very true. And then the best part was the ninja that was also waiting down there with the flag, who saw the dead bodies like...
Oh yeah, again, disguised as a flagpole, and then, damn it, this guy found me. They're the best. I really wanted to go through and just count how many there were, but it got out of control. They're ridiculous.
I really think the next
ninjas holding flags in this movie.
Yeah, there is. I think the next time I go to a con, I'm gonna cosplay as one of these guys, and I'm just gonna set up at a random place, and whenever somebody looks me in the eyes, I'm just gonna droop.
Oh, no, it's perfect. You should. No one will get the joke, but I will, and that's all that matters.
I'll take video for you.
Oh, I'll love it. Hell, maybe I'll join you. All right.
Done.
So, before we go more into describing what happens in this movie, this is where we sort of get into the big problem that I have with the movie. The one thing that drives me nuts about this movie has no idea what geography is. So Parmistan is supposed to be somewhere in the Hindu Kush, around like India, Pakistan, that area.
Really?
The movie was shot in Yugoslavia, and you can tell because everything kind of has this like Eastern European vibe to it.
And very, very, very cloudy gray. I thought they were actually filming in Gary, Indiana, to be perfectly honest.
My guess was actually like Serbia or Siberia, like somewhere in that sort of area. Because, all right, I'm going to skip ahead a little bit because this also plays into the characters have no idea where they're supposed to be from. Like, the main villain seems English to me.
Hey, I thought Thorg's accent was spot on.
I'm not even
Every
kidding.
Russian person.
All right, Thorg was a passable Russian.
What are you talking about? His voice was clearly West Coast American.
I know, but it was the 80s. Anyone was a passable Russian. So, the king, he looks like he's, like, Russian. His daughter is, I thought she was Thai. I looked it up. She's actually Filipino. It's like, none of it makes sense. Everyone's just from random things. Like, there's no way that she's related to him.
Wait, you thought the king was Russian? I thought he was, like, old school Jewish, like,
he
straight up Mel Brooks styled.
He gives me Mel Brooks sort of vibes at times.
Like
his outfit. I was actually talking. Yeah, he does kind of strike
his mannerisms as well.
He does strike me as actually very like Jewish, but his outfit is really what I was thinking. Like, it looks like sort of like a traditional Russian garb.
Needless to say, this only proves your point more, though.
Yeah. Anyway, well, no, actually, because if he was a little Jewish, he might make sense in that area. I'd actually believe him the most, and he still doesn't make sense.
They do make mention that his daughter's mother was Indonesian.
Indonesian. Yes. I took a note of that because, all right, let's get back into the review because I want to hit on that. All right.
Okay.
So Kurt Thomas finishes his acrobatics, gets off of the parallel bars, and just walks off stage as people applaud. Like, he doesn't wait to see how his results were. He's like, I'm just doing this for fun. Like, this is just... I get the impression this is just him working out, and it was so amazing it drew a crowd.
I mean, of course, because he's Kurt fucking Thomas.
And we see a mysterious man in, like, a trench coat, and I don't think he has a fedora, but he might as well. I mean, he screams spy. And he's watching the performance like, yes, Kurt Thomas will do. So Kurt Thomas leaves. One woman, one groupie, tries to follow him into the locker room. Spy Man just kind of like holds up his hand and waves like, no. And that's all the discouragement she knows. Like, yeah, no, you're right. I shouldn't try to sleep with Kurt Thomas. And she just walks off. Hard cut.
Like right now, Like 20 years later, she's like, I really had an honest chance to sleep with Kurt Thomas, and I just blew it. Just because some guy waved a hand at me.
Anyway, so hard cut to, I assume, Kurt Thomas's house. I don't know, and Spy Man. And the most ham-fisted exposition for this movie. Like, they just jam in everything you need to know about the plot of this movie in about 5 minutes. Pretty
much.
It's so uncomfortable. To summarize, the plot is there is this country, Parmistan, that the U.S. wants to build satellite dishes in for their Space Wars program. Because the Cold War, that was important. And apparently these mountains are just perfect for satellite dishes. And apparently Russia knows it too. As do the Chinese for some reason, although it's never mentioned why the Chinese are interested.
Way ahead of his time, man.
I know. Just like the Chinese.
And based on the competition, it also looked like maybe Italy, maybe Spain.
Okay, yeah, there's so many characters who are just thrown into this without any, I have no idea who half the people in this movie are.
So, was Jackie Chan supposed to be representing Japan, or was he supposed to be representing China?
First of all, China. And second of all, that guy was not Jackie Chan. I was positive until I IMDb'd it that was Rufio from Hook.
Oh my god, you could be right.
It's not. Unfortunately, I was heartbroken to IMDb it and find that he's not.
You merciless lying scoundrel, you.
I know. It looks just like Rufio, though. The whole time I'm watching it, I'm just like, Rufio! Anyway.
Fair enough.
Backtracking to plot. Alright, so they want to build these satellites. Parmistan's the only place to do it, but unfortunately Parmistan only allows outsiders into their country under very specific standards. And that is, they have to play a game, which is called The Game. Which,
God damn it, Liam!
I know.
I just lost the game.
Everybody in high school just lost the game, I'm sorry. Let's move on. Do kids even still play that? I don't... not important. Okay. So,
like, comment, and subscribe if you still play the game.
Ow.
Wait, what medium are we using again?
I don't know. So, that hurt me so much I can't remember what I was talking about.
The game.
Oh, that's right. So, every foreigner who crosses their border has to play the game, which is like a horrible blood spurt, murders everybody. It's ridiculous. And no foreigner has won in the last 900 years, which means they can't have any tourism, they can't have any immigration, and they can't have any, foreign trade. Because anyone steps foot in their country, you have to play this game, up you died. Including the Princess Rabala's Indonesian mother. The only way that could have worked is the king has to go to Indonesia, knock up a chick, take the baby back to Parmistan.
What was the name? What was the name of that awesome show on Nickelodeon with the blue monkeys? Or no, it was Blue Barracudas and the Silver Monkey.
Legends of the Hidden Temple?
Yeah, that's sort of like what the game is, except with more death and a lot less.
Yeah, it's a series of bizarre physical challenges that mostly include climbing ropes.
Climb this rope. Move across this rope.
90% of the game is, can you climb a rope?
And I'm sure this has nothing at all to do with the fact that ropes make for really inexpensive props.
So, Spy Man, whose name I never got and I don't really care, starts telling Kurt Thomas about the game and how they want him to participate. Oh, key thing about the game is if you win, you get to make a request of the king and he has to do it. So the plot of this movie is we're going to send Kurt Thomas, some gymnast, over to Parmistan to win their blood sport so that we can request satellite dishes. That is Gymkata. That is the plot of Gymkata.
And that's when we cut to the Rocky-style training scene.
Not yet. before we have the Rocky-style montage, we meet the Princess Rabala, who is the daughter of the Khan, I guess. He's not a king, he's a Khan of Parmistan. Again, she's Polynesian, or no, sorry, she's Indonesian, which doesn't make any sense. And they throw it in the most ham-fisted way. I actually wrote down the quote about Princess Rabala from one of Kurt Thomas's trainer, and the quote is, "Interesting backstory, her mother was Indonesian." End quote.
Hashtags last second lines.
That is neither interesting nor a backstory.
We have to find some way to justify her racial existence in this world. I know, we'll put a line in right here.
I mean, she does nothing in this movie. It's so weird. She's the romantic interest of the movie, and that is it. She serves no other purpose.
Well,
including the one that she was brought in
Well,
for.
she does strip into a cat suit.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's ridiculous toward the end, when she's just wearing that, like, 1969 Batman version of Catwoman.
She's like, I have to do something to help Kurt Thomas. So naturally I'm gonna strip my clothes off in front of my own father into a cat suit and start fighting bad guys.
I will kick like 3 ninjas, and that will save Kurt Thomas. But the U.S. government brings her in to help. Somehow they got message to her without crossing the border, even though they have no technology, and got her to join their cause, so that she's an expert on the game and can help Kurt Thomas train. Thing is, she refuses to speak for the entire training montage. She doesn't contribute anything.
And mind you, this is a montage that eventually ends with them falling in love with each
In
other.
the most spectacular fucking way that anyone has ever fallen in love on film. So, like I said, the Princess Rabali refuses to speak to Kurt Thomas, and just throughout this training montage tries to stab him in various ways. And that's what she contributes to this training montage of teaching him her expertise of the game is trusting nobody. Because I'm just going to keep trying to stab you for some reason.
Trust no one, Liam. Trust no one.
So he keeps trying to hit on her. Throughout this montage, we learn that he's got the hots for her. And it's driving him nuts that she just won't talk to him. So one morning, Kurt Thomas goes downstairs, sees the Princess Rabali, and says, "Good morning, how are you?" She says nothing, of course. So he does a backflip so that he's facing the other way, mocks her in a falsetto, like, "My day was beautiful, how was yours?" And then flips back and responds to himself, waits for her to respond. When she doesn't, he flips, responds. This goes back and forth for a while, until eventually she's like, "Bam, I love you." And they just start making out. At which point she whips out a knife.
I don't know if I would call it making out. It looked a lot like she just brought her face in and Kurt Thomas just started nibbling her lips like a horse would nibble some hay.
She was the Kurt Thomas salt lick. Oh.
We should all be so lucky.
Oh, that's gross. So they're in love now, and Spy Man is briefing them on how they're going to get into Parmistan. The only way they can do it is they have a rendezvous city of, Kabbalah on the Caspian Sea. Which is what it says in the little subtitles on the bottom, like when we've changed to a new location, it would be like New York City, or London, or Paris. It says Kabbalah, on the Caspian Sea. And Spy Man is very clear to say that Kabbalah on the Caspian Sea is 100 miles away from Istanbul.
Sounds legit to me.
I looked it up on Google Maps this morning because that just sounded wrong to me. And given I'm a typical American, I know nothing about geography. The Caspian Sea is 1,000 miles away from Istanbul. At the closest.
What's a digit or two amongst friends?
Tens places. Who needs them?
Certainly not Bollywood.
Oh my god.
Hollywood.
Whatever wood this is. Whoever allowed this movie to be made.
You mean Kurt Thomas's sheer force of will?
I had a friend, and I was watching this movie with him, and he was saying that people who dedicate their lives to, like, competing on the Olympic level in a sport that's less mainstream, like gymnastics, that is their life. They have this obsessive love for gymnastics. And then once you get old enough that you can't really compete in the Olympics anymore, what do you do with that energy? You make Gymkata.
Well, and that's an interesting thing about Kurt Thomas, because his gymnastics story is actually a little bit of a sad one.
Oh, yeah. He didn't get to participate.
I mean,
in the Olympics that he was expected to take the gold in several.
Right, and on the first time he couldn't make it because the president ended up boycotting it in the 1980 Olympics. And then the Olympic series after that, he actually didn't make the qualifiers. Or it may have been the other way around.
Cool.
But basically after that, he quit it and decided, you know what? I'm going to make movies. People are going to love them.
I'm going to make a movie. It's going to be Gymkata. It will be my crowning achievement and all I ever need to do in life.
I think he's actually starred in 3 different movies, though.
Oh my god, are they all as amazing as Gymkata?
I don't know. I think Gymkata was definitely his pet project. This needs to be backed up by IMDb right now, because God knows that is an honest source of information.
Well, let's get back to our synopsis. So, after we go to Kabbalah on the Caspian Sea, 100 miles away from Istanbul, we meet the Stork. No explanation as to why he's called the Stork, but at least they gave him enough of a name I could remember him. And the Stork is like their Q, is that he provides Kurt Thomas with all the gadgets he never uses in the movie.
Well, what's her name? The King's Princess uses the knife gun, even though guns are explicitly illegal, and she only uses it by accident.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Alright, I should clarify, they never used it after the demonstration of how to use the devices scene. I actually thought that she used the knife gun again, but after rewatching it, I couldn't find her using that damn thing. Ever.
She was too busy kicking ninjas.
Yes. And also, you know, normally like Q has the pen that's a bomb that blows up. Stork has an axe that's sharper than normal axes. That's what he brings to and a knife gun.
I don't see what's wrong with either of those. I could use a particularly sharp axe right now. I have a tree out back that's particularly troublesome. I need to axe it.
So
I need to kill fastly, and bullets too slow.
Referential humor! Yay! So then we have a scene of Kurt Thomas and Princess Rabala going to the market and just breaking shit. Like, if you watch that scene, they break pretty much every prop that they have to hold. It's amazing. Because it comes off as, like, this asshole American just wandering into a Turkish market, breaking all of their shit, and then going, I'm not going to pay for that, and walk away.
And then they're completely surprised when Spyman makes mention about how Americans aren't appreciated, and then manages to die from, you guessed it, an arrow to the chest.
Like, several. And was that Spyman? I assumed it was, but I didn't recognize him. I thought it was just a dude that died.
It may have been Spyman B.
It makes no sense. It's hard to keep track of all of these people who have no names and nothing to distinguish them from anybody else in the movie.
I mean, he was kind of skinny and had a suit, like Spyman.
Like everybody but Kurt Thomas in his amazing Cosby sweaters.
And Richard Norton, a.k.a. Class...
The Sheriff
Class
of
B.
Nottingham.
Yes, Sheriff of Nottingham.
It's all I could
Class
see.
B Norris.
But yeah, so Spyman gets murdered. Kurt Thomas chases after the murderers. And what does he use to defend himself? Well, first of all, this fight scene starts something that happens several times in this movie, of Kurt Thomas in a fight with multiple people where he does a flip and then a guy falls down.
I'm telling you, that's what happens. Bad guy stands in front of him. Kurt Thomas does some kind of gymnastics move. Man is clearly impressed and wants to shake his hand for it, but no, Kurt Thomas sucker punches him instead.
No. I'm not saying, yeah, there's plenty of instances of that, but there are also so many scenes in which Kurt Thomas just does a backflip and then a guy falls over. There is no contact, there's nothing, it's just the sheer amazingness of that backflip. The guy's just like, I'm out, you got me. What am I going to do against that? And just falls over and hopes that...
Liam-san, that is the way of Gymkata.
Yes, see, that's the skill of gymnastics portion. And then when they get a little bit more dangerous and he has to use a parallel bar that's just happily hanging out in an alleyway, that's when he has to use the kill of karate. So, a fantastic prevalent theme of this movie is gymnastics items cleverly hidden as everyday ordinary items that Kurt Thomas can use to kill bad guys. Including this scene where he gets up on a parallel bar that just runs across this alley for no reason and just starts swinging around and around and around on the bar, waiting for bad guys to round the corner and promptly get kicked in the face.
Well, naturally, that's the stealthiest way to wait for your enemy to approach, is swinging wildly on a bar with overly loud swooshing noises occurring.
Also, this is something I miss about movies nowadays. Action flicks in the 80s had the best impact sounds. Just that terrible, unbelievable thwack.
Bad guys just thwacking off left and right, falling over. Gets pretty messy, all those bodies piling up.
Alright, so Kurt Thomas finally finishes swinging around on his bar and kicking bad guys, and realizes that the princess has been kidnapped. Because reasons, he just knows that. So he goes back to the Stork and is like, what the hell, they took the princess. And this is where I feel like the writers and directors knew that the storyline was a little bit weak. Because they're like, there's terrorists, and they took the princess. And it's just this completely unnecessary to the story filler, like 20 minutes. Because the actual story of Gymkata is not strong enough to just stand on its own.
Well, I mean, if only been an even hour, you have to put that extra 20 minutes in somewhere.
Yeah, and, movies like Birdemic do it with a really long scene of a car driving during the opening credits, which is my favorite way to get it up to a feature-length film. Just shoot a car driving.
Driving at like 10 miles an hour, mind you, but that's a different story. Back to Gymkata.
Yeah. Alright. So, thankfully, in Kurt Thomas's debriefing packet, there's information about the terrorists and where they hang out. So he goes over there and Gymkatas all the terrorists and gets the princess back. And then there's a chase scene and there's guns and it's, I don't know. It's like impossible to follow what's going on. They're running, there's people gunning. Somehow a car flips over.
I would imagine it's a lot like the rail tours at like the actual Universal Studios where they have a star map. This is where the terrorists like to hang out. Here, for a quarter, you can try your hand against these terrorist actors.
We're gonna get you. We're evil because we're like one of the terrorists I thought was Abe Vigoda with like a scratch over his eye.
It very well could have been.
He's the one that keeps trying to hit Kurt Thomas with an axe until he defends himself with that fire extinguisher and then sprays Abe Vigoda in the face. That's the one.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
Oh, so good. There's a chase scene. They get back to the Stork's hideout. Also, if for some reason you're bored watching Gymkata and you need a little extra to keep you invested, just watch the doorknob on the Stork's front door. It's connected to nothing, and when they open the door, they just spin it all the way around. It's like one of those latch handles. It just spins loosely in the door frame. Just hangs there. So we get back to Stork's place, and it turns out, surprise, Stork is a traitor, and he's gonna kill our heroes.
No.
Until, I know, I was shocked too. But thankfully, they're saved by another spy man. Who?
That's right. That was.
I don't know who he is.
I'll say that he was the original spy man, and
I think he's the first spy man. I think another spy man gets killed somewhere along the line.
that's right.
Like I said, this movie just introduces people. Well, sorry, no. This movie introduces no one except for Kirk Thomas.
But brings in all sorts
And the
of
Princess
killer
Rapala.
characters all willy-nilly, and then throws them
Yeah,
away.
people just show up, and then you're supposed to connect with them or understand who the hell they are. I don't know.
Naturally, Liam, I connect with everybody that I meet for the first time. That's human interaction, right? That's how that's supposed to work?
Hello, nice to meet you, and I love you. Like some sort of hippie commune. We then fill our inflatable raft and ride down the Caspian Sea, I guess? I don't know what body of water they're on to get into Parmistan, but it's the only way.
It looked a lot like a river like a riverbank that they landed on when they get to the next scene.
Yeah, they land in a river, but
So my theory is that the Caspian Sea itself is only like 100 miles long, and that's what they traversed across. And then the other 900 miles to Parmistan was just a really long-ass, non-existent river. They took a little...
I have no idea. But so they land, and of course, the second they land, ninjas. And there's another great fight scene where Kurt Thomas flips around and people fall down for no reason.
Oh, like 10 people, at least.
Yeah, there's like 10 ninjas that just fall for no reason. Until eventually one gets lucky and manages to club Kurt Thomas in the back of the head and he goes down.
Well, that's the thing. He like spins around a bunch and sucker punches people. And they all just kind of stand there and take it until one of them is like, wait, he's sucker punching everybody else. Why don't I just sucker punch him? And lo and behold, it works spectacularly.
It does.
And you know it works because he blacks out. And by he blacks out, I mean the entire screen goes black.
Yeah. And in fact, it does that really great thing where it goes black right before the club hits him in the back of the head, but you still hear the, oh!
That's how you know it's the 80s.
You know it hit him, but we don't have a stuntman. So then, once again, another hard cut. This movie loves hard cuts. Hard cut into Kirk Thomas with a bandage on his head in a bed with some, like, horrible old crone just, like, fondling him in his sleep. As he's like, Rapala, Princess Rapala, Rapala.
And the whole time, Caretaker Touchy McTutcherson is just like, oh, I'm going to touch your head with my feminine hands.
Oh, I love that. Caretaker Tutcherson.
Oh, I'm going to rub your cheek, and it's going to be good.
I mean, she could play a witch in just about any genre and be spot on.
Was that a woman? I thought it was supposed to be a dude.
No, that's a woman.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, my.
No, that's because she's got the hots for Kurt Thomas. Like, she's all up in him.
Oh, dear.
So, Sheriff of Nottingham comes in on this scene, and we get some more exposition. I'm a villain, brah, 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 brah. Where's the princess? That's all Kurt Thomas can think about. And then once he knows that she's safe, he's like, all right, I'm ready for the game tomorrow, even though I'm concussed.
No, not only that, he's like, okay, Caretaker Tutcherson, have at
that's
it.
the best part, is so after the Sheriff of Nottingham leaves, he lies back on his bed, and Caretaker McTutcherson starts fondling him again, and he's like, stop it. And then she's just like, hey, I'm going to get in there and get me some. And he just kind of goes, whatever. Just grab it, whatever you want. I don't care anymore. Hard cut. Khan, with his little model of the course they're going to be running, and explaining it all of climb this rope, then run for a little bit, climb another rope, run for a little bit, go through the village of the damned, which is everybody's favorite scene.
More on that later.
And then run back and you win. That's it.
Sounds easy enough. Lots of rope, a little bit of crazy people, make it back, piece of cake, right?
Wrong. It is a dangerous game made of danger, I guess. I don't know.
I think the dangerous part is supposed to be like all the wannabe clan members wearing the wrong colors chasing you after a while.
Yeah.
But even they can only attack you based on certain rules.
Yeah, they have to be in the same phase of the game as you. So if you're climbing up the cliff wall, they have to be climbing up rope. Yeah. It's all dependent on what you're doing. And this gets shown throughout the movie. Like, they have a great amount of it, but before that, we now get to meet the other competitors of the game. And by get to meet, I mean they're now suddenly in the movie. Except for Thorg, who Kurt Thomas somehow knows is going to be competing and is super excited to meet.
He's like, "Oh, Thorg, I love your work from..." And then he just gets cut off and Thorg is an asshole.
No, he says Munich.
Oh.
I've looked up to you since Munich, which I assume is the Olympics, but then what the hell event does Mickey Rourke look-alike compete in?
Maybe they decided to do pole vaulting indoors that year. Or shot put. He looks like a shot putter.
Yeah, like I could see him as a shot putter, especially with his Hans and Franz suit.
Maybe he does pole vaulting with like actual people as his pole.
Maybe. But we meet these other people who Kurt Thomas names by name a couple of times, but like, how do you know who the hell these people are, and how are you already on a first-name basis with them? And they're already on a first-name basis with you. We explain, and then we go to the Khan wants to demonstrate how the work is done, or how the game is played, by having some convicts play the game. He's got 3 criminals leashed up in his yard with, like, a crowd of onlookers. Or just like, yeah, let's see the... They've all got bows and arrows and sticks and rocks. Like, the entire country of Parmesan is down with just hunting a man to death.
Oh, and their excuse for it is not too dissimilar for hunters' excuse to hunt deer, because if not, they would starve to death.
Well, it's one of these, like, if these criminals manage to win the game, then they get to go free.
Because I know after I've been rotting in a cell for however long, I am naturally suited to the physical challenge of climbing ropes while being shot at.
They do surprisingly well, though, except for that one guy who passes out in the cornfield and gets just speared by a ninja. Alright, so we have all the competitors and the Sheriff of Nottingham on horseback, and they let the criminals go, the townsfolk just start chasing after him, hucking rocks and shit at him, and everybody on horseback is like, alright, now let's ride so that we can see what the course looks like and have them as they run it. And there's this fantastic part. So everybody takes off on horseback, and the Sheriff of Nottingham mows down an extra with his horse. And I can't tell if that's like to show how evil he is, or just an honest-to-God mistake, because all the other actors like, should we help him? Like, this guy gets blown away by this horse. It's fantastic. Go back and watch that scene, and watch this guy just get taken out by a horse.
I'll have to do that.
It's so good.
Well, you know, one certain actor, I'm not going to name names, but one certain actor did equate his job to being as difficult as fighting a war as a soldier. So, that's true. The mortality rate might be even, especially if you're an extra.
I mean, it looks like he got hurt. Like, the actors look concerned about him. We get to watch the criminals run, and first they have to run through a cornfield, and one of them just, like, gets tired and gets speared by a ninja. And this is when we get explained what the flagpole ninjas are, is they're standing at the boundaries. telling you, like, you're not allowed to go out of bounds or else you'll get killed immediately. Got a couple of problems with this. One, they're like, every couple of miles there's a ninja. Like, you could just run off course and they would never see you. But, let's say...
But,
okay.
I was going to say, in their defense, the only time they've ever gotten close to running off course, there happened to be a flagpole ninja there waiting at the standby. So, even if they were that far apart, they were very, very well placed.
Yeah.
I have to give kudos to the king on that.
They've been doing this for 900 years, at least. They've got it down to a science. They know where all the turns that someone's going to try and run off course are. Alright, so that brings me to point 2. They've only got flagpoles. What are they going to do to kill you instantly?
I don't know. We saw the Indonesian princess pull out a knife from her training stick. Maybe there's a knife in the flagpole. It's perfectly natural. This is the 80s.
Alright, that ninja's still got to catch you, and you've got a running start on him.
That's true. And we know that he's going to be even late after that because just the mere fact that the guy saw him is going to make him wilt like a sun in the heat. Or flower in the heat.
Again, this is supposed to be somewhere in the Middle East. Wearing that much black, heavy, like, wool clothing would be horrible. Like, I'm surprised that the most victims from the game are not flagpole ninjas that just died in the sun.
Well, I mean, we always see them sulking anyway. That's probably what it is. It's not that they've been spotted. It's just that we happen to catch them on camera and they're like, oh, damn, it's hot.
Essentially, once someone spots them, they're just like, can't do it anymore. Can't keep arm lifted. Just fall. Like, if we kept the camera on them for 30 more seconds, they would just collapse.
It's called method acting, Liam.
I want to see these ninjas training for this role. Just like, I have to be here in full ninja outfit in this sauna holding a flag. Just like the real Parmesan Guard.
It's a real place. The struggle is real.
It's a real place located somewhere roughly around Istanbul, perhaps. I don't know.
You know, I've always wanted to go on a tour of somewhere. Here's a great place. The food's supposed to be pretty shitty, though.
You want to go on a tour of Parmesan?
No, I want to go to a tour of somewhere.
Oh.
So Parmesan would be one of the stops, because naturally, nothing says tourist attraction like
a place where all tourists
death game.
Participate in this grueling death game?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, man in the cornfield gets stabbed. Then we get to climb a rope to the top of this cliff. And the first guy climbs the rope surprisingly well for an emaciated prisoner. I don't think I can climb a rope that well. And
I mean, I don't have much experience, but I have seen plenty of episodes of Ninja Warrior. Climbing a rope is not an easy task, especially for the first one. I mean, if they could just like time travel to the future, they should have known that rope climb should have been at the very end.
Well, I mean, it's the first of many rope climbs.
Yeah, but it's also the only vertical one. All the other ones are horizontal.
I guess.
I mean, they may as well should just be like monkey bars. With splinters.
Horrible rope burn monkey bars. The first one gets up. The second one, understandably, has some trouble. And one of the ninjas pulls out a bow and arrow and shoots him. Again, love when someone gets shot with an arrow in this movie. And when this happens, the Sheriff of Nottingham just turns to another ninja and says, kill him. With like, he doesn't point or anything, he's just like, kill him. Very
Well, he points at the ninja he commands, so he points at that ninja, and at first I thought he was telling the other ninjas to kill that ninja, just like, hey, I hate this guy.
That guy has been sleeping with my wife. Fuck him.
But no, that ninja draws a bow.
And shoots
promptly
the first ninja. And that's the scene where the ninja grabs the arrow too quickly and too hard and pushes it to the side. And falls over dead. And everyone's like, why did you do that? And that's when we get explained that you have to be in the same phase to kill a person. So fast forward to the next rope climbing challenge, which is the horizontal one over this cliff that killed that guy from the beginning of the movie. This time, the ninja climbs up on the rope with him and does like this really cool like leg hook thing so that he can draw his bow. It's actually fairly impressive, like lower body strength to do that. I was like, oh wow, that's actually a little bit, huh. So
He's actually a ninja warrior.
yeah, he shoots and kills the third prisoner. Again, fantastic arrow, fantastic mannequin hitting a rock bed, and that's it. It's like, okay, now you've seen everything you need to know to win the game.
Not at all.
Sorry, wasn't there a mention of a village of crazy people and Thor just murdering people for no reason?
And we only understand that because at some point earlier in the movie, the Jackie Chan wannabe says that there's a rumor that there's a village full of crazy people in the game. We never see it. There's just a rumor.
Well, it's called the Village of the Damned, and it's on the King's little model. But he doesn't really explain what it is. It's like, yeah, you just gotta run through this village and then run back, and you win.
But thankfully, Jackie Chan is there to be like, yeah, it's totally full of crazy people. Trust me, I know. I've seen some things.
Yeah, and he promptly explains that the policy of Parmistan is to put all of their mentally ill in one village and let them just breed with each other.
Hey, it worked out fine for Australia.
Come again?
That's what Australia originally was. It was a penal colony.
A prisoner colony, not an insane asylum.
Well, you know.
A little bit of a difference. Which, I guess, the prisoner colony makes more sense, because a village of crazy people shouldn't have been able to feed themselves and just died. Or they're all homicidal for some reason, so they should have just killed each other. There's no reason there should be people. That should be the easiest part of this challenge, is just walk through the village and try not to hurl at all the rotting bodies.
Well, we'll get to that in a bit, because I have my own bones to pick with that start. Anyway, guy dies. Cue Festivus, where everybody apparently feels happy because good times. We just saw 3 people get killed. Let's celebrate.
Like I said, the Parmistanese, I guess, they're super down with murder. They love it.
Oh, yeah.
Murdering their fellow man and yelling baklava are the only thing that they have in the way of fun.
Well, I mean, we have the NFL. They have the terrible game. It's cultural. It's cultural.
Yeah. Everybody needs their blood sport.
That's right.
So yes, we go to the banquet. There are jesters, there are people milling about, and then there's a VIP table with the king and all the competitors and the Sheriff of Nottingham and Princess Rabala. And there's a spot left open for Thorg.
Who...
It's still blowing away there's a G at the end.
Oh, that's what makes it so great. Thorg. And I think it's just interesting that up until this point, Thorg has been completely absent from the film. He wasn't partaking, and all he had to offer at the party was, "Sorry I'm late. Hope this didn't inconvenience you." You're damn straight it inconvenienced us. Yeah. You go back to wherever you came from. You don't get to participate. That's just rude and inconsiderate. When somebody offers you a chance to participate in observing Bloodsport with them, you take it.
Especially when you're going to be participating in said Bloodsport the next day.
I mean, that's just good tactics. But tactics aside, it's just inconsiderate. When in Rome.
Murder as the Romans murder.
Something like that.
Alright, so Thorg shows up. Kurt Thomas is like, "Thorg, I've been a big fan of yours since Munich." And he calls out Thorg, look at me, I'm Kurt Thomas. And I've been a big fan of yours since Munich. And he extends his hand for a handshake and just gets stonewalled. And it's such an uncomfortable scene because it's just that kid in high school. Oh, it just hurt everything. I was like, oh god,
love me.
And Thor's just that's none of it. He doesn't even acknowledge him. And he sits down, and everybody feasts, and the king stands up and like, let us celebrate, because tomorrow we play the game! Yay! Like, he almost does the Kermit the Frog. Yay! No. There's like a decent
And of course, everybody
pause.
applauses,
Like,
and then he's like, "Oh,
down,
also a side note,
eats
there's
like
also
3
good."
bites of whatever chicken they're eating, swallows, then stands up like, oh yeah, I'm marrying my daughter off to the Sheriff of Nottingham. And everyone's like, oh, there's another thing. Yay! Yaklaba!
And of course, naturally, that's when, I mean, that would be the cue for the groom, aka Sheriff Nottingham, to just take off his shirt and show that he really is a Chuck Norris lookalike. And then he pulls out
Sigh.
some size and does some crazy whirligig things, and is like, "Ha! Look how impressive I am. Clearly, I'm superior to Kurt Thomas," and he proves it by throwing them and impaling the fur pelt that was clearly getting ready to pounce on Kurt Thomas and saving his life. And just to clarify, this is not the same fur pelt that was just adorning the wall because pelts are common in Parmesan. No, this was the pelt that was crawling along the wall because it was going to attack him.
Oh, yeah. It's so, like, that scene made me think of, I don't know if you ever seen the movie Galaxy Quest.
No, but it sounds like I need to see it right now. Excuse me.
It's a good movie. It's not a so bad it's good movie. It's actually just a good movie.
Oh, never mind. Not interested.
There's a line from Alan Rickman of, I see you managed to lose your shirt again. That's all I could think of with the Sheriff of Nottingham, because any excuse to take off his shirt, he takes it.
I think we have to officially dub this the Alec Rickman conundrum then.
It's so great. He normally just kind of wears a vest, like an open vest showing off his pecs. But when he gets a chance, he takes that vest off.
Glorious pecs.
So after this, again, hard cut to that night, Kurt Thomas just like holds a knife up to Touchy McCaterson or whatever we're calling her.
McTutcherson.
Like, take me to Princess McTutcherson. Holds a knife up to her and is like, take me to Princess Rabala's room. And then once they get there, he hands her the knife and is like, all right, as you were. And she just kind of wanders off with his knife.
That's what I would do. I mean, I was just held at knife point. Instantly, I would fall in love with my captor and then just like not know what to do with myself after I'd be released.
Like, immediate Stockholm Syndrome.
That's how it works, right? Just like, hope you got me.
Yep.
I am eternally your bitch. I mean, in her case, she already was his bitch.
Because he's Kurt Thomas.
Right, and also because she was McTutcherson. But I mean, like, now that there's a knife involved...
Yeah, she was into him while he was in a comatose state. Now that he's up and moving around, she didn't have a chance.
And once that knife got involved, all bets are off.
Talks to Princess Rabala, blah, 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 love story, it's a political marriage, no shit. Sheriff of Nottingham's evil, also no shit. And then it's like, it's this weird storyline of the Sheriff of Nottingham wants to make the game so violent and deadly that the people will accept it when he murders the king and takes over. Like, it doesn't. I don't understand that plotline at all.
Basically, they were just trying to make it sound like, oh, right, he's the bad guy if you haven't figured it out yet.
From that time he murdered that man in the beginning of the movie, / all the other times, plus he's like he just reeks of the villain.
It's like, P.S. He really is the bad guy.
I know you're in a movie as complex as Gymkata, you're waiting for the red herring, but we didn't have time. That one got left on the editing room floor.
We would have had a neon sign, but that would have cost extra, so we just did an extra scene because film is cheap.
So then we move to the beginning of the game. And again, we're in Town Square, and all the different people. There's Rufio, there's Thorg, there's Kurt Thomas, and then there's like 4 or 5 other people. That,
generic Italian guy, generic
yeah,
Spain
English
guy.
guy.
All right, English guy was there. Basically, they all should have just been wearing red shirts because we didn't know their name and they were part of this game that was so terrible.
You know, and also, so she makes a point of that Sheriff of Nottingham is going to make this game so like dangerous and deadly. Thor kills almost everybody.
That's not entirely true. He only kills one person that I remember.
He kills Rufio.
Right, he was the one person. And then he also kicks Kurt Thomas while he was down at the beginning.
Yeah, he tries to kill Kurt Thomas, and
everybody else either gets killed by ninjas or is too stupid to figure out like how to traverse an obstacle.
I guess I thought he killed more people. I don't know. It's really hard to keep track because, like I said, everybody's the same.
Right. The only thing we have to go on to tell them apart is they're wearing different colored jumpsuits. All of them have the equal length of equally dark shade of hair and equally dark brown eyes.
There's murder. There's Kurt Thomas getting hit. There's a great scene where a bunch of archers try to shoot Kurt Thomas, and he hides behind a tree, and all of their arrows hit 3 different trees pretty much in the same spot.
Okay, so here's the bone that I have to pick. Every single time that the bad guys draw their arrows and bows out to shoot at somebody, they kill them. Dead. Usually within 1 or 2 shots, right?
Mm-hmm.
Bad guy numero uno comes and he wants to kill Kurt Thomas. What does he do? He lights a road on fire. He tries to cut
I know.
Never once does he pull out a bow. And the one time he does also happens to be the time when he has the worst shot possible at Kurt Thomas. He's like, oh, he's hiding behind 3 trees that are clumped close together and could actually provide decent cover? I know. I'll pull out bows and arrows. If I just use more of them, one of them's bound to hit something that's not a tree.
Well, he was too far away to try and set the tree on fire.
That's true. It also was a little too thick to cut down in one, like, swoop. Also, he wouldn't be able to shake the tree menacingly like, ooh, I'm gonna get you.
Yes. So the Sheriff of Nottingham falls victim to that Austin Powers elaborately, unnecessarily slow dipping device. When Kurt Thomas comes to the vertical rope climb, instead of just shooting him, because we've already established that he doesn't care about cheating, because that's right, because one of the ninjas shoots the guy out of turn, and Kurt Thomas goes to a flagpole ninja and says, "That guy's cheating, kill him," and the flagpole ninja does nothing. 1, because he's on the payroll of the Sheriff of Nottingham, and 2, he's got a fucking flagpole! What is he supposed to do?
I'll tell you what he's supposed to do. He's supposed to droop and wither because it's frickin' hot outside.
Yeah. It's ridiculous. But Kurt Thomas learns that he's not going to get any help. He's got to play even with them cheating. So he climbs the rope. Sheriff of Nottingham sets it on fire because apparently they soaked all of their ropes in kerosene before the game started. But thankfully, Kurt Thomas can climb faster.
You know, that would explain that would explain the smell for my smell-o-vision.
I would not want to watch this movie in smell-o-vision.
I would not either.
Everything about this movie looks like it stinks.
I just couldn't imagine getting to the town of Crazies in smell-o-vision.
Oh my god! Again, because it really shouldn't be that difficult a challenge. Because they should just be smearing their shit on the wall.
Okay, so I'm a little excited. I'm a little excited about the town of the dam. So let's just assume for the first 2 rope obstacles, he makes it.
And he does, and Thor kills Rufio during this time. Ninjas kill some other people, and
now he's in the village of the damned.
He gets to the village of the damned, and as far as I can tell, there are 3 people. There's Kurt Thomas, there's Thor, and then there's one of the other dudes who hasn't been murdered yet. And they get to the village of the damned, and suddenly everything's very foggy, and Kurt Thomas put on tap shoes. Because he just clicks and clacks with every step.
I think the most notable thing about all the scenes in the Village of the Damned, by far the crowning achievement, has to be the scene with what I can only assume is like a half-constructed well.
It's not. It's when you first see it, there is a goat tied to it. So this is where they hitch up their goats because they're crazy.
Oh, is that what it is? It's
But
a
it
goat
is
hitch. Is that?
I guess there's a goat. There's a goat tied to it. But what it is it's 4 cinder blocks with like 2 pipes on the top connected to nothing. It's a pommel horse. Everybody I know that's seen this movie, they know the pommel horse scene. People who haven't seen this movie are like, wait, I know about the pommel horse scene. Yes, this is where the glorious pommel horse scene, and genius part on the director and writer, you have to sit through like the first hour of this hour and 20-minute long movie to see the pommel horse scene. But it pays off.
It is so incredibly worth it.
So Kurt Thomas wanders through this town of crazies, and he sees just all sorts of ridiculous, crazy stuff. He finds the third guy is dead, and he feels sad about it because there's a crazy dog licking up the guy's blood.
People speak in Simlish everywhere. I think one person is like singing a Beatles song backwards.
It's nuts. There's a guy who has a fake, like a mask on the back of his head that looks like a face, so he's like standing facing the wall. But then when he turns around, you see his real face. It's like,
ooh,
okay, you think when he's pretending. It's just so. And then he gets beckoned by this guy in like a priest's frock, but then he turns around and there's like no ass on the thing, and he's just buck ass naked walking around.
Hide your kids. This just got PG-13.
Oh yeah, it's ridiculous. But he runs into Thorg again. They fight in a pigsty, while crazies with pitchforks start coming after them. Kurt Thomas, he's light in gymnastics. He jumps up through like the second-story window, but Thorg's too big and can't get up and gets stabbed to death by guys with pitchforks. Now we're done with him. And all of the crazies can focus on Kurt Thomas. And there's like hundreds of crazies. And so what's Kurt Thomas to do but get on that pommel horse in the middle of town square and just swing around and kick like 100 dudes in the face until they give up and let him get a head start running. It is the highlight of the film. It's the best part. Everybody knows the pommel horse scene. I think you can just YouTube Gymkata pommel horse and you'll find it. It's amazing. If nothing else, sit through this movie just so you can watch that. He gets his head start, starts running, leaps off the walls. The crazies are still coming because he only pommel horse like 100 of them to death. There's still another 200 or 300 with pitchforks and scythes ready to kill him. He scales this wall, but he can't quite make it to the top. And suddenly a ninja appears, and he holds out his hand to help. He takes the hand of the ninja. The ninja takes off his hood and reveals it's the guy from the beginning of the movie that the Sheriff of Nottingham shot, who is also his dad.
Dun, dun, dun! I'll probably put an actual sound effect in there.
Oh.
Maybe.
I love it. Pretty sure that's whatever the common law or whatever it's called.
Sure. I know people.
All right. So, together they climb up this wall and escape the Village of the Damned. And at this point, we've established all he has to do is run back to town, but clearly the writers just didn't know what to do at this point. Because we have to make it somehow dramatic, I guess, but it's just him going back to town. So now we cut to the ninjas in the palace, and Princess Rubala and the king, or the Khan, sorry. And the ninjas just start like, all right, this betrayal's taken too long. Let's just get it started now. And just start like, let's kill the Khan, I guess. And thankfully, Princess Rabala gets in her catsuit and kicks like 3 ninjas.
Oh no, the best part is while this is
And-
happening, they just lock the king in his room, and the king's like, yeah, okay, that makes sense. And the princess is like, dude, you just got locked in your own room. You're a prisoner here. And he's like, no, it's all cool. They're looking out for my safety. And she's like, okay, you obviously don't believe me. You have to take matters into your own hands. She strips down in front of her dad into catsuit, and then he's like, oh, now it makes sense. They're really trying to usurp me. Okay, let's do this. And then she starts kicking ninjas in the face.
He goes out, like, warns the populace that, General Zod, or whatever the hell, the Sheriff of Nottingham, his ninjas are traitors, get him. And just, like, the mob just starts attacking the Royal Guard. Because that has historically gone well for mobs.
Absolutely.
Anyway, back to Dad and Kurt Thomas.
Hard cut.
They're on their way back. Dad's explaining some convoluted plot of how he survived being shot with an arrow and slamming into a rock bed at the bottom of a cliff, which apparently just broke his arm forever. And as they're walking, again, that great arrow effect of just suddenly there's an arrow in his chest and he falls over. And we see the Sheriff of Nottingham I guess he missed Kurt Thomas and hit his dad again. And that starts the big climactic fight between the Sheriff of Nottingham and Kurt Thomas.
And this is the one thing that I'll give Richard Norton credit for, because this is the only remotely believable fight scene in the entire film, because Kurt Thomas does his usual, I'm going to do some gymnastics and then try and sucker punch you. And Richard Norton is like, no, that's not how fighting works, and then actually does good fight acting and hits him 2 or 3 times in a row. And so naturally, what does Kurt Thomas do to combat this? He does even flashier gymnastics moves to confuse poor Richard Norton, who's like, so wait, what's going on? Oh, he got me, and manages to successfully sucker punch him.
It's great. I also love that, so Sheriff of Nottingham starts with a knife, and he throws it, but as we've already proved with the Psy, he throws things so hard, even into just dirt, that Kurt Thomas cannot pull the knife out of the dirt and is forced to be like, I guess that knife's just there forever.
Well, naturally. I mean, when the Sheriff of Nottingham throws something, it damn well stays there.
So they fight, there's sucker punches, Kurt Thomas is victorious, and he steals the sheriff's horse and starts riding back to town. Meanwhile, this riot's going on where it's like, stop the guard. Some yokel comes running like, they're here, the winners of the game. Everyone just calls timeout on the riot to go see Kurt Thomas.
Well, yeah, I mean, what could possibly bring people together more than participating in bloody activities than seeing somebody arrive victorious from national blood sport?
So, Kurt Thomas arrives on horseback with his dad, who's slumped over. I'm not sure if he's dead or alive, but he's got a couple more arrows in him. And the king's like, we've done it, we've quelled the insurrection. And the prince is like, I love you, Kurt Thomas. And Kurt Thomas is like, yeah, and credits.
Oh no, the best part is it cuts back to where we were at the very beginning of him dismounting the parallel bars, taking a bow, people applauding, and then he just walks away like it ain't nothing. Alright, so that is Gymkata in all of its glorious splendor and excruciating detail. So let's recap a moment on some of our favorite ups and downs. So what do you think is the shining chrysalis of Gymkata?
What it is to be Gymkata. What makes Gymkata the great movie that it is?
Yes.
It's got so much going for it. The obvious just props that are clearly just gymnastic equipment disguised as something that would never be here that Kurt Thomas can use to fight with. The whole ridiculous storyline. I mean, but there's the pommel horse scene. Everybody loves the pommel horse scene.
And I think that's kind of what it boils down to, is just that this entire movie at its very core is just so entirely unnecessary. But thanks to the will of Kurt Thomas, everything just magically manifests into the right place. Because could he have taken on hordes of people without using his terrible Gymkata? Probably. But god damn it, there's going to be a pommel horse in town square.
Yeah.
And that goat is going to be cleared and gone as to make ready his preparation.
He's ready to pommel horse. Yeah, so that's what I have to say. Like, what makes this movie special? It's just the way that they ham-fist in the things he needs in order to do his gymnastics, in order to Gymkata people. And the movie is just so delightfully, disgustingly 80s.
It is. I mean, I can't think... There's not really one male character who's memorable, maybe apart from the King, that does not have the 80s mullet.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, the main bad guy even goes as far as to have a single ear pierced. I mean, that's probably how you know he's the bad guy.
He's got, like, that wavy Texas Walker Ranger...
Oh, totally.
Hair. I mean, it's not quite a mullet, but it's glorious. He's got the single piercing. Thorg has an amazing mullet.
And the very classic bad guy goatee.
Oh, yeah.
Like, he probably came through from an interdimensional portal and defeated his good twin. For the most part, I think I would agree with you there. The other thing that I just liked, you know, a lot of movies similar to this don't go quite to the extremes of physical flash and pizzazz in their fight scenes, you know? Normally it's just sucker punching, but in Gymkata we get lots of fancy gymnastics and then sucker punching. I mean, it's just they go the extra mile.
Yeah, this movie really wanted to be a Tony Jaa flick. Like, it wanted to have those, like, oh, wow moments. But it lacks the flash. Like, it has so much flash, but just in the wrong direction. Like, it has so much style and no substance.
And that's really what it's all about, is just having the force of will to commit to something, even though the product is so absolutely terrible, you can still see the effort that was put into the final result. The glorious, glorious, stinky final result.
You know, but I honestly think that while they were working on this film, the directors, the actors, they thought they had a box office smash. Like, they thought this was awesome. I don't think ever for a moment it even entered Kurt Thomas's mind that this was ridiculous what he was doing.
Well, and I think that's probably what it was, you know, because Kurt Thomas willed it into being and it was sort of his pet project. I'm assuming it was his pet project. You know, like everybody...
I would imagine.
Like, everybody around him probably just, like, felt an infectious enthusiasm from him, you know? He's like, oh, he's really into this. There's no way this could possibly go wrong.
Yeah, it's got to be like... It's almost like this Emperor's New Clothes thing of, like, he's selling it so hard that this is amazing. Maybe it's actually amazing. And in the end, it was amazing.
Just
but
not
for all the wrong reasons.
Which is why, for us, it's all the right reasons.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly recommend Gymkata. to anyone. It's a really easy movie to introduce someone to so bad they're good movies.
So, final verdict. We have 2 thumbs. Are they going up or down?
Oh, they're all the way up.
I'm going to say up, and then I'm going to have one weird damned villager extra thumb going up as well.
Oh, I love it.
For those of you listening at home, I just tried to mime that, which makes really good radio.
Yeah. Physical comedy.
And I believe that's all we have on the docket for tonight, sir.
Yeah, I mean, that was a much more in-depth view of Gymkata than I thought originally I was going to give. I feel like I just did a book report on Gymkata.
It was pretty good. I was impressed. I just kind of let you go, and it was good.
Yeah, it was good. So we have a list of more terrible movies that we'd like to hit, but I'm always of the opinion of, what does the fan base want to see? So
all of you fans out there currently listening, we want to know what movies would you like us to review? Now, I'm going to put a couple stipulations in there. We definitely have some classics like Birdemic and The Room on the docket already. So if that's what you're expecting us to or if you just really want us in your heart of hearts to review that, don't worry. It'll be there. It's coming. Have patience, Grasshopper. But if there is a turd in the rough that a shining turd in the rough that you think that we aren't aware of just yet, by all means reach out to us. Now, how can they reach out to us, Sir Liam?
I don't know. I don't know what we're going to put this up on, or if there's going to be a comment system. Probably, I don't know. But we have an email address. Is it badmoviebookclub@gmail.com?
I thought it was watchbadmovies@gmail.com.
That sounds right. I don't know. I didn't set it up.
I have a way to fix this. It's
Watch Bad Movies
@gmail.com.
Seamless transition.
They'll never see it coming. Also, we'll have a Facebook page, so if you just go into Facebook and search for
Bad Movie Book Club,
you can find us there too.
We're actually having a Facebook club. All right. Marketing. So I guess this concludes the first episode of Bad Movie Book Club. Hopefully we'll be back next month with another bad movie that we can share with you.
Until next time, keep swinging those wonderful pommel legs and dodge all the arrows.
We'll get a better catchphrase. I promise. Good night.
Up in the sky! Look! It's a plane! It's a plane!
It's nothing short of a masterpiece.
That is one big pile of shit.